Today on Variant, I give you all the history of the Sith. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I love last week's mid-season finale of The Flash. I'm your host, Arris. Ever since I said I was going to do some Star Wars themed episodes leading up to the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens, people have been asking me to talk about the Sith. So today, since so many of you wanted me to talk about the Sith, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about them. Well, not everything, but at least all the major things. Before I get into talking about the Sith, I just want to let everyone know everything I will be talking about today is canon. The Star Wars Legends banner, which is no longer canon, does have a cool take on the Sith, but I wanted to only talk about things that are still in continuity / canon for today's episode. With that out of the way, let's start talking about the Sith. The Sith Order were the ancient enemy of the Jedi Order. They were formed during a 100-year darkness, thousands of years prior to the Clone Wars. The first Sith was a rogue Jedi who believed in learning the ways of the dark side. The Sith built empires on the backs of their slaves and fought wars against the Jedi for control of the galaxy, during which time they built massive super weapons powered by the giant kyber crystals. At one point, nearly 6,000 years before the rise of the Galactic Empire, the Sith built a shrine on Coruscant, which became a place of immense dark side power. Later in history, the Jedi raised their own temple over that shrine in hopes of stomping out its power. The Sith Order's traditional homeworld was Moraband, a planet of red sands that the group was forced to abandon after it was scarred by many wars. Their quest to gain power was ultimately the undoing of the Sith, as the dark side made them turn against one another. With their numbers reduced, the Sith were all but defeated by the Jedi. The sole survivor of this war against the Jedi Order over a millennia before the Clone Wars was Darth Bane. Being the sole survivor, he created the Rule of Two. The Rule of Two was a Sith philosophy mandating that only two Sith could exist at any given time, meaning that there is a Dark Lord of the Sith to embody power and an apprentice to crave it. Kind of like Darth Sidious and Darth Maul, and then Darth Sidious and Darth Vader, who are the last known practitioners of the Rule of Two. Darth Bane created the rules so that the Sith could operate in secret, using deception to plot their revenge against the Jedi, recognizing that it was Sith greed that led to their destruction. Of course, the Sith continued for 1,000 years in secret. Their survival was unknown to the Jedi, as they plotted their revenge against the Jedi Order. The Sith had remained a distant memory until the rise of Darth Sidious. As most of us know, he's the Dark Lord of the Sith. His apprentice was Darth Maul in the last days of the Republic. And I've said it before, but Darth Maul is hands down one of my favorite Sith Lords. But anyway, Sidious hid in plain sight as the unassuming Senator Palpatine of Naboo, while secretly orchestrating the Trade Federation's invasion of the planet. This allowed him to make a play for the galaxy's highest office in his civilian persona as he sowed the seeds of Sith revenge. Maul attacked Queen Amidala of Naboo and later killed Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn, but fell to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Despite this setback, the Sith had returned, clouding the Force with the power of the dark side. The arrival of Anakin Skywalker, who was especially strong with the Force, offered a potential new recruit for the Sith. And of course, Darth Sidious would help turn Anakin to the dark side of the Force, thus Darth Vader was born. But he didn't get his cool costume and all that heavy breathing until Obi-Wan cut off several of his limbs in a fight and left him to die on Mustafar, at which point Darth Sidious gave him his awesome suit, which is what keeps him alive. Sidious and Darth Vader ruled the galaxy for over 20 years until the Battle of Endor. During this battle, Luke Skywalker faced Sidious aboard the second Death Star, where the Emperor attempted to convert Luke to the dark side of the Force. He wanted a more powerful apprentice than Vader. Luke, however, steadfastly refused to join him, leading the Emperor to torture him with Force lightning. Vader, unable to stand by and watch his son be tortured, picked up the Emperor and threw him into a reactor core, returning balance to the Force. Badly damaged from taking a hit from Force lightning, Vader, now once again Anakin Skywalker, died, but his selfless act allowed him to transform into the Force and join Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Sith Order was seemingly no more and the Jedi had returned, donning a new age. And of course, Star Wars The Force Awakens will add to the Sith story, but at the time of me shooting this video, the movie hasn't been released, so I don't know what they are and aren't going to be adding to the Sith story, besides the trailer telling us that Kylo Ren will finish what Vader started. Now, that is my short summary of the Sith in Star Wars canon. Of course, I left out a lot of story beats and arcs, but you can watch my History of Star Wars episode if you want some of those gaps filled in. But now I want to tell you some abilities the dark side of the Force gives the Sith, or at least a few of the abilities. As Darth Sidious once said, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Users of the dark side of the Force, such as the Sith, drew upon feelings of hatred and anger, as well as thoughts of greater power, to make use of abilities not practiced by the Jedi. One of these abilities was Force Lightning, the ability to cast lightning from the tips of one's fingers that had the power to disfigure and destroy. They also have such abilities as telekinesis, telepathy, and are extremely skilled with a lightsaber. The list of powers, though, goes on and on, as the dark side of the Force allowed them to have many abilities. But now I'm going to give you guys some good Sith reading recommendations. You have Star Wars Darth Maul Death Sentence, Star Wars Darth Maul Son of Dathomir, Star Wars Darth Vader, Star Wars Darth Vader in the Cry of Shadows, and lastly Star Wars Tales of the Jedi Dark Lords of the Sith. First up for Wednesday, December 16th, we have We Are Robin Issue 7. This is Robin War Part 4. It puts Tim Drake against Jason Todd in a steel cage match, and only the Court of Owls can say who will escape with their life. Now we have Batman Europa Issue 2. Forced to work with the Joker, Batman reaches Prague just as the virus he's been infected with starts to affect him. And finally, we have Justice League Issue 6. The Dark Side War rages on, and the Justice League have become gods. And that brings another episode of Variant to a close. But remember, you can always like our Variant Facebook page, keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow Variant on Twitter at Variant Comics or me on Twitter at Arris_Quinones. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. The Jedi raised their own temple over that shrine in hopes of stomping out its power. The Sith or the Sith. The Sith. Hello. Okay. Alan Rickman. You want to see me playing? Yes. You want to see me playing?